blind productivity is ruining us, and what Nietzsche thought about this. We live in a world where staying busy is everything. Culture says productivity determines our worth, and so when people look busy, they look valuable. However, having an intense work schedule is one thing, and being busy for the sake of being busy is another. Nietzsche believed that a sickness was spreading in the West, covering it with an odd mindlessness, making people who caught it ashamed of keeping still. Turning them into the type of people that eat breakfast with a watch in hand and an eye on the financial pages, chanting to themselves in their head, work, 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 doing anything is better than doing nothing. This sickness is the need to stay occupied, and he believed that this rather do anything than nothing thinking was degrading our culture and higher taste. Our fixation on completing tasks in less time than others, turning us into machines, turning us into cogs rather than creators. Removing the spirit and passion from work and, well, life. So what, Nietzsche? Do you want me to be lazy and just do no work? What you're saying almost sounds like anti-productivity. But that might be too black and white. He's not against effort, but spiritless, wasteful effort, which he thinks is spreading and causing cultural decay, causing us to be controlled by our work rather than the other way around. Now, I quite like productivity. I think it's useful and I think about how I can better spend my time. I might even call myself a fan, but that might be the motivational reels and microplastics talking. So let's use a real example. In office work, it's not uncommon for people to feel like they simply do things for the sake of doing things all day. I saw a video of someone recounting their experience, and they mentioned that they only really got given 3 or 4 hours of real work to do a day, and would spend the rest of the day doing neutral tasks just to stay busy. Imagine eating donuts, not because you're hungry, but just to keep your mouth moving. That's blind productivity, work for work's sake. And in some ways, society seems to promote it, praising busyness, even when it's pointless, just because it looks like work. Nietzsche saw this as degrading, turning effort into something like a nervous tick rather than something you can find meaningful. For him, he thought this harmed our spirit, but there are modern day thinkers who frame this more practically, especially for people who make money being creative. Let's represent blind productivity as a cow. Oh, look at this cow. I can't actually see a cow right now. Grazing on grass for 80 hours a week. Naval believes we should work like a lion. Not just efficient, but intentional, moving only when it serves a real purpose, and never simply to look busy. This passage from Morgan Housel summarizes the benefits well. If you anchor to the old world where good work meant physical action, it's hard to wrap your head around the idea that the most productive use of a knowledge worker's time could be sitting on a couch thinking. But it's so clear that it is. Good ideas rarely come in meetings, or even at your desk. They come to you in the shower, or on a walk, on your commute, or hanging out on the weekend. I'm always amazed by the number of famous ideas that came to people in the bath. But tell your boss you require a midday soak, and the response is entirely predictable. So, this rather do anything than nothing mindset may actually lower outputs, all while making it harder to find work meaningful. But on top of this, and maybe more importantly, it makes you feel guilty. The amount of times I've laid in bed thinking I should be working is insane. The fact I feel guilty if I go on a walk or cook without listening to a podcast is insane. Not because it's not true, I could be more productive and busy, but because when everything has to be optimized, just existing can feel like a failure. It's like we've internalized busyness as a moral value, or like a religious duty or something. This old-fashioned praise of always being busy is, I think, responsible for so many of the anxieties in our lives, and makes real leisure and relaxation much more challenging. Nietzsche emphasizes that when you take a walk in the countryside, you have to justify it to yourself by saying, it's for my health, and that we can never just want to feel joy or happiness without it in some way tying back to work. He thought that it was becoming more and more rare to do something simply for the sake of joy. The only times I can feel good about myself watching Rick and Morty is if it's like an incentive for work, or it makes it easier to work after or something. Now, this anxiety to always be working is a confusing one, because it can be tied to amazing results. There are times to be busy. In his early career, one of the best grapplers alive, Craig Jones, would only sleep 4 hours a night and train and teach all day. In his early YouTube career, Casey Neistat's daily routine looked like this. He was insanely busy, even to the detriment of his health. But the thing is, this version of busyness is different, only because it's intentional and linked to real output. As much as it can look similar, doing things just to do things is not the same, and it doesn't guarantee valuable output in the same way either. Relaxing in the bath might actually be more productive, even though it feels counterintuitive. So, if working like a lion with focus and intent achieves better results anyway, then why fall into the trap of constant, anxious busyness? And why let the guilt of not always working follow you to bed or into your leisure time? Obviously, not everyone has the privilege and choice to choose how and when they work, but when you do, remember that output is all that matters. Mindless busyness, according to Nietzsche, only strips work of spirit and meaning. So, are you busy or are you actually working? And when you get to choose, is your work serving you or the other way around?